The company behind the Model T says it is starting all over with electric vehicles and how to make them. We are talking about Ford, which just announced a streamlined assembly process, fewer steps, fewer pieces, starting with an electric pickup that will cost just $30,000. It comes as electric vehicle car sales are growing more slowly and consumer EV tax credits are about to expire. Let's talk about Ford now with Roben Farzad, the host of the podcast Full Disclosure. Hey, Robin.
Hello, sir.
So at the big reveal yesterday, Ford executives, they did not show us this future EV, not yet, but they did talk about rethinking the whole factory process. 20% fewer parts, 40% fewer human workstations. Robin, what do you think of this supposed rethink?
I buy it theoretically in that the CEO has been very outspoken about getting blindsided by these really nimble Chinese EVs, which have a lot more in common with smartphones than they do the internal combustion industrial complex of Detroit. And when you drive them and you see the Chinese, for all their different cost of capital issues, are they owned by the government? Are they propped up by the government? If these are allowed to come into the country, they would absolutely vanquish what's left of Detroit, the big 2.5. And so there's the school of thought that Ford should just stick to its knitting, sell gigantic, enormous pickup trucks that are high margin and, ride that business down like it's tobacco or a typewriter business. And there's another one that says innovate or die. Even if you're losing money into this right now, you are not going to be relevant unless and until you become more like a BYD. And I give him credit for at least, putting that language out there.
Yeah, so as Ford told us, right, they developed this team the last 2 or 3 years, worked in this stealthy Silicon Valley mode, came up with these efficiencies. So this next truck coming, pickup, is going to have a smaller, more efficient battery. Again, $30,000. The question is the consumer. If you build it, if Ford builds it, will people come? Because we know EV sales are growing, but not as quickly as analysts expected.
Yeah, but put down the prospect of a nimble, competent, decent range little pickup truck, and it stands to reason that people would snap it up. I mean, it's not out there right now. Even Toyota has been slow walking it. You have the F-150 Lightning and some other gigantic things which are absolutely not accessible. Ford is not making money on EVs right now. It's realizing that this is a loss leader, but it claims that it can profitably sell a $30,000 EV platform pickup truck and use that as kind of a cudgel for operations and for other vehicles. Right now, the Mustang has an EV version of it, the F-150 does, but by and large, EV has been the province of Tesla and BYD and, even the Korean car makers to a larger extent than Ford.
Yeah, all right. So take off this hat you're wearing and put on the skeptic hat for a second here, Robin. Now I want to ask about innovation. Ford says, right, it put this new team together to rethink the whole thing, and here we are. Right, Ford says there's a whole new map of how the factory is going to work, whole new way people are going to work in the factory. But history, it suggests it is really hard for legacy companies to pull off big-time innovation, the innovator's dilemma. Where is it going to be hard potentially for Ford?
You have so many different legacy costs. You have a supply chain across the United States, in Mexico, in Canada, abroad. The way you source things for an internal combustion engine. Yes, I had recently the investor Vitaly Katzenelson on my show, and he talked about a smart car and a dumb car. If you were inventing a vehicle today from scratch, tabula rasa, would you invent an F-150 kind of internal combustion engine, even for all of its profitability? No. EVs, they have far fewer parts. They require less maintenance. Once you could tweak the battery technology and range anxiety, that's what you would invent today. And it goes back to kind of the buggy whip manufacturer. Why, in the time of Henry Ford, did the buggy whip companies not create the best automobile makers in the world? It's the same reason why, Microsoft didn't invent the smartphone or Nokia didn't invent the smartphone. A legacy player, an incumbent player, has a very hard time with legacy culture, legacy costs, legacy supply chain, unionization, and it's very hard to wrest that bone from the dog's mouth.
Yeah. All right. And real quick, directionally, you think EVs are going to continue to go up in this country?
They're having a down moment, right? The president eliminated the 7,500 credit. It's expiring in September. You're seeing sales kind of flatline. But if you have a killer app out there, a killer car, and it stokes people like the iPhone did, maybe it could happen.
Roben Farzad, host of Full Disclosure. Robin, thanks.
Thank you, Scott.